Hello, everybody. Welcome to season 2 of We Talk a Lot. Yes, we are back with another season. And this time we've kind of tweaked up the concept a little bit, changed it up a little bit. And instead of talking about legal topics or having legal discussions, which we plan to have too, we are going to be discussing different cases and matters we both of us have worked on. And maybe we'll call our friends and discuss these matters and try to pique your interest on what is actually happening in our courts as of today. So yeah, we're going to be talking about the different cases we worked on, and yeah, Bhumesh.
Yeah, but I can promise you, Akshay, that people will find my cases more interesting than yours because criminal law, of course.
Yeah, I'm sure. I feel like I'm just going to be that sidey. I'm going to be the Ringo Star. Like I'm just there because I was there start say. But no, I hope I can get people's interest in civil disputes and civil cases too, because generally also people are more interested in knowing what's happening in the criminal courts, and they're the ones which maybe you can say charismatic or people feel so.
I guess. But the challenge here is you're a better storyteller than me, so that would be a challenge. Let's see. Okay, so let's jump right in. All right. Let me start with it because obviously mine is more interesting. Okay. So for confidentiality reasons, I'll be changing names of the clients whom I've worked on.
Sure.
So basically, I'm going to tell you about a case which starts as this. So in the year 2012, there was this couple called Aditi and Nimit. They were dating and they were both staying in Bangalore. They dated for 2 years. And after that, Nimit went to his parents who stay in Delhi and said that I want to get married to Aditi. Now, Aditi is a divorcee and she is 7 years older than Nimit. So, Nimit's parents were not really comfortable with him getting married to her. So, they downright refused. They said that we'll disown you if you get married to her. Then there was a hard time for Nimit, and then somehow he got convinced and he broke up with Aditi and moved to Pune and started another job, and Aditi was in Bangalore. Now once he moved to Pune, Nimit's parents wanted him to get married. So the arranged marriage, same thing, and they set him up with one girl.
Say nonsense. You're gonna say arranged marriage nonsense.
Okay, nothing about arranged marriage.
Yeah.
Okay, this is not Indian matchmaking.
Yeah, draw the curtain.
So Nimit's parents set him up with another girl from Delhi, and they start talking, they start liking each other, and they get their roka done. Now what happens after is that Nimit and Aditi are still in kind of talking terms. So Aditi wanted to visit Pune once, so she asked Nimit if she wanted to stay with him, if she could stay with him rather. He was like, sure, because things were casual now. So he was like, okay, you can bunk in my living room, etc. And this he told Anusha.
This is the ex-girlfriend. The ex-girlfriend
came, and Anusha is the Delhi, the to-be fiance rather. And he told her that, and he told her that she's coming back. And what happens is, Anusha, for some reason, gets extremely insecure and jealous, and she flies down to Pune. Now, when she flies down to Pune, Aditi and Nimit are chilling, and Anusha comes back, and they are very, very cordial with each other. They start talking. They have a couple of drinks over dinner, and after a couple of drinks, they start fighting for whatever XYZ reasons. After the fight happened, Anusha wanted Aditi to leave at that moment itself and asked her to go back to Bangalore. She said, no, I can't. My flight is at 8 a.m. tomorrow. I will leave early in the morning. So somehow they resolved that dispute, and Aditi was staying in the...
Bro, this is such a Kahani Ghar Ghar ki Star Plus plot, bro.
Yeah, no, but wait for it. Wait for it. Yeah. So Aditi bunked in the living room, whereas the to-be married couple were in the bedroom. Now, I don't know why Aditi had some kind of rage or vengeance. What happened to her? She went to the petrol pump, and the case against her was that she took petrol in a bottle and then she went back home and She opened the bedroom door, poured petrol all over Anusha, and burnt her alive. And while this was happening, Nimit's left arm was slightly burnt, and then he picked up Anusha and put her
So
under
he
the
was
shower.
next to her.
He was
He was
sleeping
with
next to
her in
her.
the.
He was sleeping next to her. So he
Okay.
picked her up and took her to the washroom, tried to put water and put the shower on, etc. But it was too late. She was already half burnt. So then immediately people called the cops, people called the uh, ambulance, etc. The cops came, immediately arrested Aditi because prima facie it felt like she has done something. And of course, whatever the case and evidence was would be through her. So they arrested her. And Nimit, while Anusha was being taken to the hospital, kept telling her that Aditi has done this to you, Aditi has burnt you, Aditi has burnt you. Once Anusha reached the hospital, she gave a dying declaration. Dying declaration, in essence, is any statement given by a person just before her death. It's called a dying declaration, which is admissible directly in the court of law.
Without the
And
person actually being in court.
yes, because they can't, because they're dead. So the
Yeah,
idea is
yeah,
that when a person is dying, they wouldn't lie before dying.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So her medical tests were done, and she made the statement that this is what Aditi did. She came, she poured some inflammatory, like whatever, petrol on me, and she burnt us alive. But the catch here, but before the catch, all this trial happened in Pune, everything happened, and Aditi was convicted for life, and she was imprisoned for life. Now the case came to us, to our office.
So sorry, I'm just interrupting you. So she was held guilty for burning and murdering,
She was
for
held
murder.
guilty. She was held guilty for murder, and she was imprisoned for life and convicted.
Okay.
And then they came an appeal to the High Court, and this is where they approach us. Now, when we were dealing with this matter, we were reading the papers. It seemed almost impossible to get her out of this. However, we had to do it because we had our client and we had to do justice to our brief. So we read up on the papers, read up the evidence, and what came across is that there are many witnesses who say that till the time they reached the hospital, while she was taken to the hospital, Nimit kept telling Anusha that Aditi has done this, Aditi has burnt you, Aditi has put. So there was
So like you're tutoring
constant
her.
there was constant tutoring, so
Yeah,
when she was admitted in the hospital, of course she was in trauma, so all she could
yeah.
remember is Nimit's words saying that Aditi has done it, Aditi has done it. Second part is when Nimit was right next to her on the same bed, it is highly improbable to think, or rather believe, that he got just a slight burn on his left hand. That was the second part. And the third part, she went to the petrol pump. She picked up something. She came home. And there was nothing to say that that was kerosene or petrol or diesel. And that, of course, could not have been proven beyond reasonable doubt. And these three considerations were considered by the judge in the High Court and said that she's already put in 6 years now behind prison. And she's a woman, so there's a different considerations for ladies. And her appeal is pending hearing, and if the appeal is admitted now, it will come up for hearing after 8 or 10 years. And hence, on all these backgrounds, she was ultimately granted bail, and now she's out. So this is basically the long and short of my case, which I think is really interesting, and it was great fun
Yeah,
to have worked on such a case because there was so much evidence
yeah,
against you, and it was so dramatic. It almost felt like a Crime Patrol episode.
yeah. No, but like, don't. There was one more thing which, like, when I was speaking about, I realized that why didn't Nimit stop Aditi or the accused? Why didn't he stop her if like she was putting petrol or something?
Yeah, I mean, they were asleep, right? So by the
But
time
like
people
still,
gained
right? Like
consciousness, yeah, by the time things could happen, she was already burning, so it was too late for anything. So that's what, like, I mean, as we all know, in criminal law, it's always beyond reasonable doubt, right? So even if there's slight doubt in any of the story of the prosecution, you can, of course, uh,
No, but that's what I love about you guys. You all just have to go like, yeah, beyond reason. This is not beyond reasonable doubt. बस हो गया अपना काम. इधर सिविल लॉ में preponderance of probability ये हो सकता है, वो presumption करके bro, like anything can be proved and anything can be disproved. Although in criminal law everything can be disproved just by like a technical point.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that's pretty interesting. Yeah, and one more thing is that uh, the only evidence against the main evidence against Aditi was the statement of Nimit, right?
Statement of Nimit and the dying declaration was the main.
Yeah, the dying declaration.
Yeah.
So yeah, so then basically if you can disprove the dying declaration, then that kind of gets you the whole case. But that'll be an interesting point to argue at final hearing, to like see the test of proving a dying declaration if you can show that you've been tutored.
Yeah, no, I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm in fact not going into.
I think that's a.
Yeah, I'm in fact not going into like detailed technicalities on Section 32 of Evidence Act, which talks about dying declaration, because once we start that, that's an entire concept by itself, and I want our podcast to be appealing to non-lawyers too. So I'll keep it a little cryptic, and also because I can't disclose the case details.
Yeah, that's true. But I think it's a great story to start off the season with, because it's like the facts are like really interesting. It's like a proper plot only of a movie or something, like a thriller.
So now let's see whether your story can compete.
Okay, so
I was really storytelling.
Yeah, my storytelling. No, so I was. You told me you're going to be speaking about a murder case, and that's why I wanted to restrict it to my case story to something on the civil side only. But so I've come up. My story is about custody of children and abduction of a child. I'm using a harsh word like abduction, but there's no real abduction involved. Basically, it's about a couple, obviously, and a child. And so this woman, this is like quite a long time back. This woman was from India, and she was working in an airline, an international airline. And she would, obviously, she had like a big dreams of traveling the world and everything. And she wanted to be someone like who'd see all different parts of the world. And that's why she was working in an airline. And while she was traveling, she happened to, her mother happened to put her name on one of those websites. And she ended up meeting this one man who was an Indian, NRI. And she happened to get married to him. So at the beginning, the rishta was perfect and everything was really good and everything. And she shifted there. They're living together. She got pregnant in a matter of few months after shifting over there. And she had a kid. Now, the thing is that what it turns out that this person the husband was really bad with the two, like a wife beater and abuser, and this not what she wanted from life and not what wasn't matching her personality. So she could not live over there. The problem was there's a kid and she had no connection or no roots in Nebraska. Okay. This what happened in Nebraska. So, and I don't know if you know much of Nebraska, but it's like literally like one of those. It's a place where
Penny.
Walter White goes to at the end, I believe. I think he goes to Nebraska.
Anyway. Penny from Big Bang Theory is from Nebraska.
Yeah, Penny's from Nebraska. Anyway, so so then she has no idea what she want to do. She has like a few-month-old kid, and she decides to basically leave. But what can she do now? She has to abscond, and this is the abduction part of it. So she flees from USA, comes back to India, leaves her kid with her mother, and goes to Australia. Now, why this has happened is, why does she do this thing?
Does she work in Kesari Tours?
No, she doesn't work in Kesari Tours. I said an airline. So anyway, so she leaves her kid, and bear with me, I'll just tell you the interesting part of the law, the interesting law point involved over here. So she leaves her kid and then she goes to Australia. And while she's doing that, then she starts digging up over this man because he's like really tormenting her and asking her things. While she's digging up over this man, he goes to the district court in Nebraska, files for divorce, files for custody. Now, she obviously is not going to appear over there. She tries to appear through an attorney. But there it's like, because she's not being forthright and because she has actually fled away from there, the courts over there grant a decree in favor of the husband, saying that you give the custody of the kid to the husband, and they give him a divorce in his favor, saying that she has defaulted in the marriage and so and so. Now the problem is, if the kid is not with him, how is he going to get the custody of the child at the end of the day? So to work that out, they have to now basically he has to come up with a legal strategy. Now, while she is digging up stuff about him, turns out that he is already married to another woman in Nagpur. Now, this guy's turned out to be some Charles Sobraj kind of, in Nagpur. He's turned out to be some Charles Sobraj kind of fellow who has, and he was married to some other woman in the USA also, some Dominican Republican person. So it's like, so this guy like is pretty shady with his background. And she also obviously hasn't been the most honest because she's fled away and run away. So hiding all his history, he gets an order from the courts of USA saying that he deserves a custody and he deserves a divorce in his favor. Now, how is he going to enforce it? And that's where the interesting legal point comes, is that he comes to Bombay and files a writ petition in the Bombay High Court under Article 226, seeking a habeas corpus against the child on the basis of the judgment. He's saying, so habeas corpus basically is produce the body, bring the body. So you ask the court to bring someone's presence or someone's custody in the presence of the court, so they can be handed over in the rightful custody. So on the basis of this order of the US court, he's saying that I have a legitimate order. It is an enforceable, executable order, and therefore you issue a writ of habeas corpus and you get this child to me. So now this lady is obviously, the child is somewhere else, she is somewhere else. Then the court issues warrants and it becomes very serious. Finally, she comes back, she comes down over here, and then that's when she comes to us to help her out. We have to argue this matter. Now, what the courts held is, and all throughout the judgment, the court has been like, he's defaulted, there's contempt, and you need to enforce the decree of a foreign court because it's an executable decree. It's binding on any citizen. So but finally, why they ruled in our favor was because habeas corpus can be granted only when someone is in the wrongful custody of somebody. But her being the mother and this man having this background doesn't mean that this child is in the wrongful custody when he's only 3 years old and he requires his mother. And it'll amount to injustice of denying him his mother's rights. And on that basis, she got to keep the child. And although there was a decree of the foreign court that could not be executed and no habeas corpus was granted.
So I don't understand one thing. Like, the courts held that the child is 3 years old and he or she needs the mother. But the mother left the child and went to Australia.
Yeah, but so she left the child, means she left it with her mother because the problem was that she didn't have a job over here. That was the reason. That is the background. But what the Supreme Court and what the courts have finally held is that no matter what must be the conduct of the parent, in the end, the mother, all the care and custody of the child must always be with the mother, no matter what. And no matter how bad the mother is, see, unless the mother is actually harming the child or ruining his future, you cannot basically deny the mother the custody. And sometimes it's kind of sad because I've seen cases where the father is genuinely maybe a better parent. I'm no one to judge that, but in what instructions I've had, that the father seems to be a better parent than the mother, and the children have more affinity towards the father. But still, the court no, it has to be the mother. And I believe that is the right way of looking at things.
No, I guess,
because finally we all know what a mother's love is. Yeah.
No, true. But legally speaking, what happens when two countries have different views? Like, US thought father should get it and India thought mother should get it. So what happens then?
Yeah. So it is pretty interesting that basically a foreign judgment is enforceable and executable in India as per Section 13 of CPC. Even foreign arbitration awards as per the Arbitration Act are
Correct.
enforceable. So they are binding on the parties, and Indian courts cannot set aside a foreign court decree or judgment unless there's some fraud or some incorrect, or basically if it's illegal, the judgment of the foreign court, then yes, then you can take that defense. But that does not mean that if you have a judgment of the foreign court, it is as binding as a judgment of an Indian court. There's no difference.
So where's the child now?
Child's grown up with the mother. So I actually can't speak a lot about it because it's pretty confidential and sensitive.
That's good. So that brings us to the end of this first episode of our season 2. Guys, please let us know what you feel about both our cases, and please write in the comments below, and also tell us which one was more interesting.
Come on, guys,
come up with and if y'all come up with like other theories with respect to the cases, please let us know and please discuss in the comments, and we'll surely engage.
We would actually like to discuss this with y'all, and we can maybe even have a live session with all of y'all if y'all are interested to know more about these cases or similar cases. And obviously there are more cases to come because hopefully there are going to be more episodes.
Hopefully we'll try and release episodes weekly, but there's no promise.
Damn, bro. All our a total number of 2 fans are going to be so hurt.
Excluding us. Excluding or including us.
And guys, don't forget, like, share, subscribe. Honestly, that's what has kept us going. We got really nice comments and feedback throughout all of last year, and we want to come back to you all, and we want to share more stuff. So please do support us and help us out.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Cheers.